Hey guys, it's Snowbiter, and as a follow-up to the 30B commentary that I posted a few weeks ago, I thought I would post this replay that I had with the M48 Patton. So this game is also on Serene Coast from the same side, but the matchup is quite different, and so I thought I would post this replay and commentate over it just to show how I play this game differently compared to the 30B replay that I posted. Obviously you can see that I'm going to the C1 corner this time instead of that spotting bush that I pointed out. And one of the main reasons for that is that there's no artillery in this game, which makes it much easier to fight in that area. But there's also a lot more tier 10 medium tanks on each side, and heavies, also some faster heavies like E5s, which I would expect to see in this area. And when there are more tanks fighting in this position, I find it's a lot easier to prevent myself from being focused. I know one of the things that I'm always concerned with is if there are only a few tanks there in a spot, it's easier for enemies to focus me down. But when there are a lot of tanks, like 4 or 5 tanks at least on each side in an area, it's a lot easier for enemies to be distracted, and so I can kind of control the engagement a little bit better and prevent myself from losing hit points unnecessarily. In general though, my team also had a much better composition for potentially winning this flank. In the 30B replay that I posted, there really wasn't anything that I thought would be really good at fighting in this position. Obviously the M48 Patton is a better tank, I think, at playing in this position than the 30B would be. The Patton has better turret armor, even though that tumor on the top is a pain in the ass to deal with. And it also has better gun depression and gun handling. So I feel much more comfortable playing this position in an M48 than in the 30B. Although I think even in this matchup, I probably still would have gone to this position in the 30B. So I did take a couple of bad hits there from that E5. E5s are always annoying to deal with, so I loaded heat because I wanted to be able to make sure that I could pen him when I had to. But I did end up losing almost half my HP in that engagement, and the second shot in particular was a bad shot to take. So that's one issue with getting into a brawl this early on, especially in a medium tank, is if you lose HP early on, it can affect how you're able to play the rest of the game. And while we've won this flank pretty comfortably, the game is still very close because the enemy pushed the peninsula on that 9 line pretty aggressively. So I'm going to basically just have to go right back to our base and get into a defensive position. Now there's still a couple tanks that we can clean up on this flank as I get a kill shot on that bat chat. So even though we've lost the other side, or we're going to lose the other side, we still should be in a winning position. However, one of the big issues I see with the way a lot of people play pub games, and standard mode in particular, is that people are not good at judging when they should go back to base and versus when they should push and keep attacking forward. And so in this case, we've completely lost the 9 line, and there are still a pretty good number of tanks on that side. So everybody in my team should be going back to defend the base. There's a 268 that's camping way back there that really isn't involved at all in the fight, and a 183 that hasn't been lit that's probably camping base as well. And so there's really, at this point, no reason to keep pushing forward when the rest of the enemy team is pushing into our base. And you can basically guarantee a win by killing everything in the base versus risking a loss by going into the enemy base and leaving our defense significantly weaker. So I'm trying to make my way back toward our base. Meanwhile, we have 4 or 5 tanks that are pushing toward the enemy base. A couple of them already died, the 430 and the 1390, who are both low HP. And we still have an IS-7 and a Centurion AX who are pushing into their base. So now we're down on tanks. The enemy has a tank on the cap. I'm just trying to get shots in wherever I can, because there's a lot of HP left on these heavy tanks mostly that the enemy has. And hopefully I'm going to be able to take out a few of these tanks. So we're under a lot of pressure. This E5 is pushing. He decides to ignore that 704 in front of me completely and just YOLOs straight at me, because that never happens in this game. And fortunately for me, he just tracks me on that one shot and then is a little slow to get his second shot off, and so I'm actually able to kill him without taking any damage, which was pretty fortunate. The 704 dies, unfortunately, and so now I know the T30 is shot, and I have to put pressure on him because the enemy is putting cap pressure on us. I don't want to really push the T30 though, because I have teammates to my right who I still want to be able to support if I have to. The T30 shoots So I know I have an opportunity to get a couple of shots into him because of his slow reload. Now at this point I probably should have noticed that the I-7 got off cap, and so I should have just pushed around the T-30. But instead I stayed back and I tried to track him there. It was kind of unfortunate that that shot bounced. I barely missed it. And so now I'm thinking about going to help my teammates out, but at the last second I noticed the 268 has pushed up from the base, and so I know that I can't stay in the position I'm in. I have to push this T-30, otherwise I'm going to get surrounded. So I just take the shot from the T-30, get the kill on him, and unfortunately the rest of my allies died behind me, so now I'm in a pretty bad position. I decided to take a bit of a risk there, just using my slight height advantage to get a shot off. But now I'm essentially in a 1 versus 3. I'm going to have to try to hold off 3 enemy tanks while my Centurion AX and IS-7 are pushing a 183. Now I know that the T-10 that's been spotted in this area is pretty low HP, that he's a one-shot, so my goal is to try to run away from the 268 and IS-7, who I'm pretty sure are chasing me around that corner, and find the T-10 and try to kill him so that I only have to deal with 2 tanks. My hope is that if I can stall long enough here that the IS-7 and Centurion AX can kill the 183 and then cap out. So if I can at least kill the T-10 and just prevent the enemy from capping for a little while, hopefully they can kill the 183 quickly and get on cap. So I was hoping to get the T-10 there, but he backs up around the corner, and I know I don't have a lot of time to really waste, so I just take the shot and hit the 268 and get a reset on him at least. I'm pretty sure the IS-7 is going to be coming from that angle that I was just aiming at. And I'm trying to keep aware. The T-10 actually tries to peek me again, which is a little surprising, and I'm able to react quickly enough to get the kill shot. So that was an important kill. The Centurion AX and IS-7 killed the 183, and I'm just watching for that IS-7 flanking. He wasn't appearing, so I was going to go to try to get a reset, but at the last second the IS-7 comes around the corner and spots me, and so now the 268 is going to know that I'm coming and what direction I'm coming from, so I have to deal with the IS-7. I put a shot into him, and I didn't notice that the 268 had peeked out from that corner. I was thinking about trying to get around the IS-7. In retrospect, I think it was a little bit of a misplay for me to actually turn and face the IS-7 in that situation, because I essentially trapped myself in. Once I turned around and took that shot, there wasn't really going to be any way for me to back away from the IS-7. I could have probably tracked him in that position. That might have been the best option. And I also should have noticed that the 268 had peeked out, because he had been spotted a little bit before I decided to try to push around the IS-7, and so that could have given me a little bit more time to work with in that situation. That being said, it was still a pretty difficult situation for me to deal with. I had to essentially try to waste as much time as possible while dealing with getting cap resets as the enemy was trying to chase me down, and just hope that the teammates that I had in the enemy base were going to quickly kill the 183 and get on cap, and it just didn't quite work out for me. I was definitely a little bit salty at the end of this game, because if just one more tank had even come back and helped me defend the base, we probably would have won this game. And it's something that happens a lot, where I see teammates just YOLO into the enemy base after a flank has been won without really paying attention to the minimap. But there are definitely things that I could have done better in this game. Some of the early HP loss was a bit of an issue. It probably could have played out differently if I hadn't taken 2 hits to that E5 early on. And if I'd done a couple of things differently here and there, like pushed that T-30 once he had missed the shot on me, then perhaps I could have done a little bit more at the end and actually won the game for my team. Anyway, here are the post-game stats. I ended up getting an ace tanker this game, as well as a top gun, and a lot of damage. I think I did around 8,500. So it was definitely pretty frustrating and disappointing to end up losing this game, especially because I felt like I played pretty well throughout the game. It wasn't really a case of me just damage farming. But obviously, even if you play well, you don't always win. And I still thought it would be a good replay to post and add commentary to, especially because I thought it would provide an interesting comparison to the 30B replay that I posted, just to see how I play the same map from the same side, just under slightly different circumstances with a different matchup. So I hope you guys enjoyed the replay and the commentary. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.